Hello, Sun City residents. This is Rusty Bradshaw with Sun City News and Stuff. I'm here to give you some highlights from last night's Recreation Centers of Sun City annual membership meeting. Now, this meeting is one where if there are any motions brought forward by members, they can be voted on by the membership. However, last night there were no motions to bring forward. Apparently there were two that were submitted, but they were judged to be improper motions because most likely they dealt with the business affairs of the corporation, which is defined in the bylaws and by law to be an improper motion. Today starts the first day people can submit motions for next year's annual meeting, and the process set up in the new bylaws approved in late 2025 allows for those to be looked at by legal, and if they're determined to be improper motions, the motion maker can modify it, tweak it a little bit until it can be a proper motion. This is a year-long process, and there's plenty of time for all those tweaks and modifications to take place. The question was asked last night about what is and is not a proper motion. That is defined in the new bylaws, which I don't have with me, so get a hold of them, take a look, and maybe you can put something together that doesn't have to be disqualified for additional research. Now, in last night's meeting, they started off with a little review of what took place in 2025. Board President Tom Foster mentioned that the Quail Run renovation to satisfy requirements by Arizona Department of Water Resources continues. The bylaw amendments and adoption were completed last year. Following that, board policy amendments and adoptions were completed. Pool refurbishments and other projects were completed or still ongoing. The board was informed that Election Buddy, which did the work for annual board elections, was not going to support their software. So the board had to research and find something else to do that. They came up with a new software, and it is in place and ready to be used for this year's board election. And Mr. Foster mentioned that all of this was done while maintaining a balanced budget. He said the board had pledged to get its finances in order and operate in the black, which they did. Chris Nettesheim gave her report on the Mountain View renovation project. She said there was a lot of research and analysis done on the project, especially with the performing arts area, and the board's decision was to go with fixed seating rather than retractable seating because that made more sense for current residents and those coming in the future. She also mentioned and showed a photo of a shovel sticking out of the ground in front of the Mountain View sign as a symbol that the project is moving forward, and they hope to have dirt turned sometime this year. The board and Triarch is still taking input from members for the detailed portion of the design of the facility. The board also recognized and gave an award to Director of Operations Mike Diermeyer, who stepped in last year to serve as interim general manager while the board looked for a new general manager, which they eventually found in Rebecca Hill. Chris Nettesheim also reported on the Sun City Foundation, saying they had 110 assessments last year, plus they spearheaded the Santa for Seniors campaign. The foundation gave $62,000 in assistance during the year. The foundation also got its first grant application to the Chris Reeves Foundation for chairlifts at the Bell Pool, and they're still waiting for the results of that application. The foundation is going to be doing 3 fundraisers, and the slide presentation went so fast I only got 2 of them. First is the 40 for 40 campaign. They're wanting 1,000 people to donate $40 in recognition of the foundation's 40th year of operation. And there will also be a golf tournament. And she reminded people that the foundation has received grants from Desert Diamond Casino, the Tohono O'odham Nation, which has been very generous to organizations in the West Valley. New General Manager Rebecca Hill talked about the goals and objectives for RCSC. She said her goal was to improve members and staff experience, but that doesn't mean that everybody gets everything they want. There's a lot of compromise, and that's kind of goes without saying. Ms. Hill said it's been a lot of fun getting to know the great people in Sun City. She mentioned that the board and staff have put in 515 hours of meetings and community feedback during 2025. She also mentioned that one person manages 95% of the communications coming out of RCSC, but the board approved hiring a market and communications manager, which should help lighten that load once that person is hired and ready to go. Ms. Hill said there were over 1 million check-ins at centers during 2025. And there were 174 capital improvement projects completed in 2025. She mentioned that in 2025, the RCSC brought in $28.5 million in revenue and had $26.4 million in expenses. She also said there is better collaboration with RCSC's community partners, and they continue looking at cost savings. Coming up will be the North Golf Course renovation. They will continue to focus on fiscal responsibility. And they, again, expect to break ground on the Mountain View project sometime this year. Then came the portion of the meeting where residents could offer their comments, questions, suggestions, and so forth. One member asked how many were currently on the live stream for the annual meeting, and the answer was 42. This resident thanked those online viewers and encouraged them to use the chat feature to make their voice be heard at other meetings. The chat feature was not available last night, but it is during exchange meetings and the regular board meetings. Another resident said that her assumption was that a member had to be with their guest visitor who has a punch card, and the board answered that that was correct. But this resident also said they are seeing some guests going in without the member present. The board said they will look into that. Another resident got up and asked if the age restriction is being enforced in Sun City, and added that they need new chairs for meetings such as the annual meeting. Mr. Foster suggested he talk with Showa regarding the enforcement of the age restriction. This resident said he had talked to Showa and was told that there was nothing they could do about underage people in the community. And you'll hear a little bit more on this a little later. Another resident thanked people for being involved. Another resident was concerned that all the information that was presented at the annual meeting was nice, but this person was not hearing anything about where RCSC wants to be in 3 to 5 years. Another resident brought up the issue of having polling places in Sun City during regional, primary, and national elections. She said the last time she voted in an election, she had to drive all the way to Sun City West to cast her vote. She hoped that the board was considering allowing a center to be a polling place, or a couple of instances, a couple of centers. Mr. Foster said they were having discussion with Maricopa County about this issue. He also said there are a lot of places like churches and so forth that no longer are doing the polling places due to liability issues. Preston Keiss said that if the polling places were in rec centers, anyone, not just Sun City residents, could come on to RCSC property to vote. They can't limit it to just Sun City residents. Another resident said that the Arizona Department of Water Resources has mandated the reduction of water use on the golf courses, but the plan in place only reduces that water usage by 15%. He said that Arizona will take a 20% cut from water coming from the Colorado River. He said that the long-term viability of the community depends on water. And he asked what is the proper subject for a motion at the annual meeting, and I've covered that. And the board also suggested he goes to the bylaws. In fact, Preston Keiss said that that is clearly stated in the bylaws as amended. Chris Nettesheim reminded everyone that even though a motion is determined to be improper, it would still be presented at the annual meeting, but as a recommendation to the board only. Another resident got up and said that he, like most people know, is a strong proponent of building a multi-purpose facility at Mountain View instead of a theater. This resident said he believed it could be done at half the cost and could get much more use out of the building. He said he is building a scale model of such a multi-purpose facility that would fit in the footprint of the planned theater, and he's costing it out. He will present his findings to members on YouTube. Another resident thanked the board for their work on Mountain View and said they were looking forward to it getting shovels in the ground and turning dirt. Another resident got up and said that the annual meeting was a time for celebration, but he believes there needs to be more celebrations in Sun City. He suggested there be a big celebration on July 4th for the United States 250th birthday. He also reminded people that the time capsule, which is located under the replica Liberty Bell at the Bell Center, will be opened in November, and he believes there needs to be a big celebration revolving around that event. Lisa Gray, general manager at the Sun City Homeowners Association, stated strongly that Showa does enforce the age overlay. She thanked the RCSC board, Showa, and RCSC, and two different organizations for their work. She said that this RCSC board and general manager and Showa are working very well together. A resident thanked the board for all they are doing. She said she and neighbors were bothered by an influx of homeless, and it's proven that most panhandlers do it as a job and get welfare benefits at the same time. This resident, and I identified it as a she, but it was a man. I apologize for that. He said that it has been proven that most panhandlers do it as a job and they get welfare at the same time. He urged residents not to give panhandlers money. And a resident asked about a schedule for the Mountain View project. Chris Nettesheim said there will be a calendar put together, but that is not, they are not at that point yet to have a schedule completed. The resident also asked if there was going to be selective closures during construction or if the entire facility would be closed. Ms. Nettesheim said that the likelihood is that the entire facility at Mountain View would be closed during construction. And several people got up and talked about the need for a master plan for Sun City. One member said it was approved, but has run into difficulties with funding. Another resident came to the podium and admitted to being a Gen Xer and admitted to loving Sun City. He said that he has worked with the board in a number of capacities, from committees to the bylaws group, and he said that everyone on this board is professional. He urged residents to get involved. It's that easy, he said. He said he travels all over the U.S. every month and works 60 hours per week, and he still has time to get involved in Sun City. Another resident got up and said that there isn't a board member on the RCSC board that does not want a master plan. However, they had talked to a number of consultants, and the cost ranged from $300,000 to $1 million to put together a master plan. So that issue is still up in flux. And that was the essence of the member meeting. And it is available on the RCSC's YouTube channel to view the entire thing if you'd like to. Thank you very much for watching.